So I was thinking of Breen last night, and I've been reviewing this particular passage from a book that I'm going to talk about today. And it just, every time I think about it, I think about this evangelical way of delivering this line. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve.
Yes.
I've just been wanting to do that. Have you ever been in a place, today's talk is mostly going to be in the first person. So if something resonates for you, please take it for yourself, but I can only talk about myself in this particular situation. So often I can see where we have commonality in life, where we have the truth of something that is universal to each one of us. And I believe this to be true for each one of us, but I can't really say it's true for you because you may or may not yet have experienced something like this. So there are times in life where we have a clarity of purpose. And there's a moment that happens when all of a sudden the veil is lifted from the confusion of daily living. And we are transcended from the experiences of our past and our lives into a new understanding of what our purpose is. And it is crystal clear. And that's that high resolve that I was thinking about. That's that moment in which the life's purpose becomes clear and it is higher than what you thought it was. For instance, in my case, I was a designer and am a designer, a visual designer. I have a degree in graphic design. I've worked in that field for 30 years. And I've risen through all of the levels of that field in the professional world, from starting as a junior designer to being an owner of and a principal of a design firm. So I've had all the titles, and for a long time my purpose was to become the principal of a well-known design firm. And so I focused my life around that, and every time I would ask myself, about every 6 months, if I weren't doing this, what would I be doing? It's a very good question to keep in mind. So if you're having a little frustration with where you are, think about asking yourself that. If I weren't doing this, what would I be doing? And for 13 years, the answer was, no, I would be doing this. This is exactly what I love to do on a daily basis. I'm enjoying myself. I'm rising through the ranks. I'm becoming nationally known, yada, 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 yada. You know, and then one day, there was a moment in which the purpose of my life was revealed to me in a different way. And it was that my purpose was not to get for myself and to be this channel of communication, but my purpose was to be a beneficial presence for others and to be a servant. Now, that necessarily didn't change what I was doing with my activities, but it changed my entire perspective. And in that moment, life was lifted up. That resolve kept me feeling enthused and energized with a sense that there was some place to go and some place to be and something to be that I had not been before. So this idea of the moments of my high resolve come from a book called The Inward Journey. And this is a passage, and that's by Howard Thurman. And this is a passage I have loved since the moment that I have heard it. And I'm going to split it up. You'll hear it all together at the end. So keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. If you've had one of these moments, you know the glory of that moment. If you have not yet, you can, because they are available to absolutely everyone. When we open ourselves to an idea of a larger presence working through us as us, then this idea can form itself into a new purpose in life and a new way of doing things. He goes on to say, despite the dullness and barrenness of the days that pass, if I search with due diligence, I can always find a deposit left by some former radiance. Now, as we go through life's journey, the dullness and barrenness of the days that pass. Anybody relate to that? Have you ever gotten in a rut where you're just doing what you do because it's all you know what to do, and it's like, it's the job I have? Here it is, I'm going to keep walking this walk and it'll work out fine. I know it will. Eventually something will happen, but I'm going to keep doing it because it seems to be the right thing, and I'm getting the right paycheck, and I'm doing the right, I'm covering all my obligations, and we just go through, but it all begins to feel hollow for me, that started to happen when I was an owner and a principal of a design firm. I was sitting there going, what is going on? I have achieved my desire, my dream for the last 20 years has become my reality, and it is not enough. And while the work was interesting and I was fully capable of doing it, and I'm very good at it, people pay me a lot of money to think. It's really strange. I'm very good at it, but the satisfaction was leached from it by the very activity of doing it all the time. Howard goes on to say, but I had forgotten. I had forgotten that moment of radiance in which what turned from doing my job for self-satisfaction to becoming a servant to be a benefit to other people, I had forgotten. At the time it was full-orbed, glorious, and resplendent. People don't talk like that anymore. All right. I was sure that I would never forget. In the moment of its fullness, I was sure that it would illumine my path for all the rest of my journey. I had forgotten how easy it is to forget. So we have these moments of sublime awareness when we connect with the unity of life, where we absolutely know that I and the One are one, that there is no separation, that everything that is passing as my life is this divine presence expressing my life through me. And in those moments, that bliss, that resplendence of who we are, the truth of who we are, easily moves outward from ourselves, and we feel buoyant by that into a new form of life. And then the bills need to be paid, and the children need to be cared for, and the obligations need to be met, and I've got to go to work and get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I've got to put in overtime, and I got to take care of somebody, and the barrenness of the days dull that radiance. And we forget that we have had a truth that was so clear to us that it changed who we were in that moment. And this is available to every single human being, always. You see, there was no intent to portray what seemed to be sure at the time. My response was whole, clean, authentic. There was no lie in that moment. It was a real moment, that moment where the veil is lifted and reality is made clear to the individual, that the unity of life is present for me, and as everyone I encounter. That moment is so precious that we think we are going to hold it for the rest of our life and walk in that. That's what's called enlightenment. There's an old saying about enlightenment. What does one do before enlightenment? Chop wood and carry water. And what does one do after enlightenment? Chop wood and carry water. But with a completely different attitude. A completely different understanding of who and what we are. And why we are here. So no lie in that. But little by little there crept into my life the dust and grit of the journey. Delays, lower level demands, all kinds of cross currents. Nothing momentous, nothing overwhelming, nothing flagrant, just wear and tear. And that is the situation that walks in our lives. That is the human experience. Is that we are of two seemingly different parts. The spiritual truth of who we are, the essence, that glorious bright light that is waiting to shine into the world all of the love and intelligence and wisdom that we are as individuals. And the activity of humanness. Sometimes acquisitiveness. I need to have so much so that I can be safe. Things like that. Or just the daily interactions of 7 billion of us plus living on this planet and rubbing up against each other. Driving around. trying to get to where we're going because we've said we're going to do something or we've agreed to be at some place. And the wear and the tear and that radiance fades. And we begin to feel that barrenness of isolation, of walking alone in the world without the sustenance we felt was so sure at that moment of understanding. And if somebody had said to me anywhere along the line, you need to give that beauty up, you need to just put it aside and go to work, I would have said, not on your life or on mine. I'm going to fight that tooth and nail. You see, if there had been some direct challenge, a clear-cut issue, I would have fought it to the end and beyond. So it's very easy when we view the world as black and white to think, you know what? This is mine and I am going to be this, always, in each moment. I am going to be a beneficial presence of love, clarity, and wisdom in each moment. Anybody want to give that a try? I try. Honest, I do. Doesn't always work that way. Doesn't always seem to me to work that way. Don Miguel Ruiz has a really great thing in his 4 agreements, and if you haven't read it, you should. The 4th agreement is always do your best, but understand that your best is not going to be the same in each moment. Sometimes your best is going to be stellar, and sometimes your best is just going to bed without having hit somebody. That's a pretty good best sometimes. And sometimes your best is, damn, I wish I hadn't hit them. This too happens. This is the rubbing up of life against life, and the challenge of keeping before us that resplendent moment where the ideal was full-orbed, where we lived in that radiance for that moment and it became who we were before that jerk cut me off. So sometimes what we need to do to remind ourselves of that is to find the quiet. We're in the middle of the meditation class, spiritual practices for daily living, and what this is about is establishing ourselves in a quiet space. To let go of the grit and dust of the road for now, and to come back to that essence and remind ourselves that who I am here to be, that reflection of a divine idea that is the truth of my essence, is whole and complete. That despite the appearance and the condition, I have never been hurt. That essence of who I am, that God spark, has never been hurt because it is unassailable. It is whole and complete always. It is that part that is one with the one. And as it expands outward into our being, as it radiates outward into our being through our journey inward to find and remain connected to the radiance that we once saw so clearly, it flows outward into the world. Outward is that expression of God. So in the quietness of this place, surrounded by the all-pervading presence of God, and that's what meditation is. Quiet the mind and leave it go and be absorbed into the all-pervading presence of God. My heart whispers, keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. That in fair weather and in foul, in good times or in tempest, in the days when the darkness and the foe are nameless or familiar, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. That brings me to tears every time I say that. See, I've had a moment in my life in which the commitment of my entire soul was so fully engaged that I could not deny it. That I could not deny that the inner essence of who I am is an expression of a divine idea brought into this moment because it's required in this moment for me to be me. And for each of you to be who you are, so that we can be together and remember that the high resolve, the high watch is love and peace and prosperity and bliss. These are the things that bring us to that higher level of understanding of what our life can be, is when we allow it and remember that thee and me are one. That there is no true separation, that at the very essence of our being, we are all aspects of the same divine source, brought into being as us, by divine appointment, if you will, to be alive and aware and conscious at this moment in time, at this moment in history, to bring your light to the world, to bring my light to the world, to solve what seems to be a conditional problem of the world by being who we are and having the resolve to remember. So in its totality, keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. Despite the dullness and barrenness of the days that pass, if I search with due diligence, I can always find a deposit left by some former radiance. But I had forgotten. At the time it was full-orbed, glorious and resplendent. I was sure that I would never forget. In the moments of its fullness, I was sure that it would illumine my path for all the rest of my journey. I had forgotten how easy it is to forget. There was no intent to betray what seemed to be sure at the time. My response was whole, clean, authentic. But little by little there crept into my life the dust and grit of the journey. Delays, lower level demands, all kinds of cross currents. Nothing momentous, nothing overwhelming, nothing flagrant, just wear and tear. If there had been some direct challenge, a clear-cut issue, I would have fought it to the end and beyond in the quietness of this place. Surrounded by the all-pervading presence of God, my heart whispers, keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in fair weather or in foul, in good times or in tempests, in the days when the darkness and the foe are nameless or familiar, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. Namaste.